My name is Ajuna Kyaruzi. I work at Datadog as a senior advocate. I'll be your room host, and for this session, your moderator. And let me pass it along to Iram.
Laurie.
Or Laurie.
Oh, I guess I'm next. So Laurie McKenzie, Executive Product Owner for Public Cloud at TD Bank. I've been in that role for about 4 years now and excited to be here today.
Awesome. What about you, Iram?
So hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. I am the product owner of Public Cloud Telemetry at TD Bank. I have been with the bank for last 5 years. And I'm very excited here to share our experience and journey with utilizing Datadog.
Absolutely. Super excited to get started. So this talk is going to be about TD's process of scaling observability in the cloud. And to get started, I'd like to ask you, Laurie, why did TD get started on this observability journey? Take us back to a few years ago. Where was TD at the time?
All right. So I've been thinking about this question. And I think the real year that this all started was 2019. And two things happened with TD. In January, we acquired an AI innovator company called Layer 6. So that was the first one. And then as well, in April of that year, we became a partner with Microsoft, and that was announced. So because of that, our public cloud journey began, if you want to call it that way. And what was really important is the observability aspect of it and what that meant. And we had a lot of different tools currently on our on-prem, but we didn't really have something that was cloud native. And we had the opportunity to go and shop and see what's out there. And we were looking for best of breed. We wanted to, become experts at that tool. And Datadog rose to the top, and we've been with them in this journey to today.
Really cool. So, Iram, how did you get involved with this journey? How did you get started were you asked to work on Datadog, or were you tasked to finding a good tool to use for observability?
Okay, so when I joined TD Bank, I did not have any prior experience of observability tool. I understand what is a monitoring and alerting, but I never got a chance to implement any observability tool end to end. So when I hire in TD, so at that time, whatever boss I have, they have assigned me this tool and they give me, Iram, learn this tool, understand and get value out of it. So this is how my journey started in TD Bank with this tool. Before joining TD Bank, I never heard the name of Datadog. Yeah.
What about you, Laurie? How was the tool picked, or was it one that you knew would be helpful for your journey?
Well, when we look at tooling at the bank, we actually spend a lot of time on, looking at the different products in the industry. I think obviously we look at things like Gartner and see where they land on the grid, but we actually have a very advanced architecture process to evaluate that tool. And it came out of that, Datadog was definitely the top one to pick. And we saw a lot of promise of growth with Datadog from the perspective that they'll continue the journey. Like we have a lot of challenges with vendors that kind of stop advancing their product, right? And even this is my second Datadog conference, and I just see such growth in the product, which is really exciting for us because the landscape around us changes, and it's really nice to see a product that is changing with that landscape.
Definitely agree. Focusing on the landscape of TD, going on your public cloud observability journey, what had to be different as you started on kind of increasing and scaling observability? What had to change as you started on that process?
Oh, we're back to me. Okay, sorry. So really what was the process back in 2019 that I have now imprinted in my brain is really we looked at monitoring, and I'll use that word, a little antiquated, but that's how it was. And it was really something that was really just focused on the operational perspective. You know, the people that keep the lights on, the most important people for sure in the organization. And I think what was really something that we had to really focus on is shift left. So I was in a program just prior to coming to the public cloud team called DevOps Transformation. And we were really trying to shift left and really trying to look at all the different personas and new personas that were created in the organization, like an SRE, I'll just give for example, among many. But we're really looking for ways to, you know, empower developers to be able to investigate and do a lot of the work in the development environment rather than waiting to production. Because typically the way that you would configure monitoring is you would, you know, put in a request on a form like, you know, a lot of organizations. You'd wait for someone to respond, and there was up to a 30-day SLA in order for someone to respond and configure, get it up and running, and then you could go live with your app. So I think it was really a really cultural change in the organization when we did DevOps was that shift left and do a lot of that upfront work. And I know Sean's here today because we did something called continuous monitoring, which was something absolutely new that a developer could configure through a YAML file and actually experiment in the development environment, so you're not waiting for all the way to prod. So I think it's you know, implementing that visibility in the lower environments instead of waiting to prod, and then advancing and learning about your application, how it's playing with the infrastructure. A lot of the times we go to production with way too much compute, where we can learn to scale it down in the lower environment and ultimately save the bank money. So we're still in this journey, I call it, of the shift left, because, you know, I understand developers seem to have a lot on their plate, but at the same time, I'm finding now that we can go faster in the whole end-to-end processes. And I think that's really important to, you know, automate when you can, absolutely. And at the same time, make that self-serve and make it an option to allow teams that they're not waiting. And I think those two critical factors are important in this journey. And now we're starting to see where people want to go faster and they want to see that self-serve model in everything.
That makes sense. When it comes to the self-serve, something that is part of the title of this presentation was also that you had 3 FTEs. Mm-hmm. So I would like to talk a little bit about the challenges that you had, right? What was the kind of the formation of obviously when most of us start a project, we are given limitations. Can you expand a little bit more? And I'll start with Laurie and then work on, kind of ask Iram after that, to expand a little bit on the restriction, and then also how did you approach solving this problem with that in mind? I know all of us in the room have been in a new project with limited resources, so would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, like I myself have been in, you know, a lot of acquisitions in my career, so credit cards and banks, and you know, normally you walk into a program like that and it's, okay, how many people do you need? And, you know, and it's great. But, you know, things have changed where, you know, we all know too, when you start to throw a lot of people at things, that the output does come to a limit at some point in time. So we were really blessed as well that, you know, we were able to make a decision on whether or not what we thought how big this team needed to be. And I think it was like really a poster child to the rest of the organization that, you know, you're adopting a tool that you don't need to throw people at it, and a mindset change really on how you approach integrating that product instead of, you know, actually hand-holding people, give them the information and the capability to move forward. So, you know, I know we have, you know, probably about 5,000 users that are in different personas and roles across the organization that use Datadog in many different aspects of it. and we have, the mighty team of 3. But I think it's, a testament to Iram and Sean that these are the right people as well. And I think that's always something that, you need to put out there. You need the right people with the passion and understand that, how can we do this without, throwing tons of people? And again, I think that was probably the secret sauce, is a combination of knowing where we were going to scale, because we had consumption, I guess you could say challenges where we knew we had to hit, so that we already knew where we needed to go and how, and we were able to work backwards with these 3 people. Okay, what do we need to do in order to do that? And we started small, which was great, and I think it gave the team enough time to kind of think through of how to, re-engineer the process and create that self-serve, because we at the same time had created a pipeline to end-to-end, again, to help with speed. So the Datadog team wanted to make sure from a product perspective that they weren't the longest pole, and make people, be able to get better with the reliability of their applications, and be able to, be much more proactive, because, like everything, sometimes being reactive doesn't fare well. And I think this has really helped us get to that goal.
That makes sense. Let's hear from Iram. I think you were the first person on the team, and then you expanded to 3. So how was it for you to actually bear a lot of that weight right at the beginning to kind of start everyone on that journey, and what challenges did you experience?
Yeah, so first challenge is that I have to teach myself the Datadog, and I'm very thankful to Datadog support team, and I got lots of support from them, and I'm able to learn very quickly Datadog. And also I will give credit to Datadog user interface. It's a very good user interface, very easy to learn, and very user friendly. So I won't take all the credit, but I will give to Datadog. Like, a support team is awesome, and their user interface is awesome, and their documentation is awesome, their APIs are awesome. So these kind of things help me grow learning this tool.
Okay, thank you for that. I would love to just focus on your work, though. As you were building it, obviously you were teaching it to yourself, but how did you get from a place where you felt comfortable enough, having learned it, to also be able to help and scale other people around you? What did you go through to be able to get there where you can not only know enough for yourself, but teach others?
Okay, so what we have done, we believe on this philosophy, as Laurie mentioned, self-serve. That's what we think. This is our philosophy. Self-serve is a self-empowerment, right? So what we have done, first I learned myself, and after that what I have done, I have created TD tubes, how we have YouTube channels. So we also have in TD tube channels, where we have created very small videos for 5 minutes long, not like an hour long, on very TD specific, right? How we implemented Datadog in TD. So we have created those. And also we have an educational channel. We have a drop-in session. We have a team channels as well. And we have an office hours and those kind. So what we have done, whenever we onboard any LOBs to Datadog, what we have done, first we give them those videos. We say, come into our drop-in session, join our office hour, we equip them. So we don't do like we are building a monitor and dashboard for you. We believe on a self-empowerment. So what we give, we teach our people, empower them, they build by themselves.
Awesome. So a lot of colleague enablement was going on there. Any other innovations that you had built to make it easier for folks to self-serve themselves, kind of have that mindset, self-empowerment, to have an easier transition to scaling their observability?
Yes, so what we have done, as Laurie mentioned, we in TD, let me give you a little bit background how we implemented in TD Datadog. We have 5,000 users and 500 plus application on public cloud. All are monitored by Datadog. So this is our organization, and this all work to support 5,000 user and 500 application is all managed by three full-time people, and this is very highly motivated individual. I give them kudos to them, like how they, with a small team, and has done a great job implementing and monitoring all 500 applications with the Datadog tool. So how we have implemented this? So we have three environments like dev, pat, and prod. In dev environment, we have our LOBs, line of business, have access to everything. They can build their monitor, dashboard, any Datadog resource they want to build. Our pat and prod environment are change management control environment where they have read-only access. So we don't rebuild monitor and dashboard in a higher environment. So what we have created internal pipeline, we call it Datadog resource promotion pipeline. So once our LOBs build all monitor, dashboard, and everything in a dev environment, we onboard our LOBs onto this pipeline, and they promote by themselves in a higher environment. So no team is a bottleneck for them. So they do in their own time. Whenever their application is ready in a pat environment, they promote by themselves. We call it self-serve promotion pipeline for Datadog resources.
Yeah, and this kind of makes it feel almost like a platform as well, which I think a lot of us are hearing more about platform engineering and becoming as DevOps folks, becoming an opportunity, becoming a resource in our organization to empower people around us to be able to work a lot of these tools by themselves and do a lot of them within Datadog or other environments. For you, Laurie, the team how was it for you to start building this kind of platform team? What was it like for it to report to you?
Yeah, that was something I had to think about a little bit, because really it was, when we went down the public cloud journey, we had an opportunity and an organizational decision to either go two ways. We could integrate within the greater infrastructure team, or put it off to the side and treat it like a journey. And we use that word in our organization as well. So that meant we have all the engineers that work in public cloud, from Datadog to the products. We have our operation team that's just totally dedicated. And then we of course, we implemented product management. You've heard Iram talk about, we have what we call a comms and marketing team. So that really helped us with cloud talks, which, by the way, the Datadog was the most highly praised one out of all of them. and we're not even 100 people. Like, we actually had thousands of people that would attend these sessions, which was really impressive. So we made a decision to actually isolate this journey as an incubator, I guess you could call it, and really allowed us to not depend on a lot of other teams. We were pretty well self-sufficient, but I think because of that, we didn't need to expand our team that much. And I think a big testament of how we work together, and we actually implemented product management as kind of a part of our scalability. We were able to, at one aspect, be able to protect the engineers, and that was the biggest complaint that I heard all the time is, not that engineers don't want to talk to the customer, they just want to code. Like, they just want to create. They're very, and with the product management aspect that we put in front of the customers, that protected that delivery to happen. And we actually saw productivity increase, through, our Jira tickets. But what was really important about this is to, not be able to, expand our group incrementally. Because when we started, there was one or two applications in production. That was it. And I think now we're getting close to 400. Probably 500 by the end of the year. But the point is, we didn't need to expand that group. And recently, it's been about a 5-year journey. Now we're talking about integrating back into the team, because, Datadog's one tool. There's many other tools that we use that could be used across the broader infrastructure teams. And I think that's really important. Instead of, us feeling like we're an island out to the side, now we can integrate in, and then we can start to see, more and more adoption over time.
Will this adoption be done by your team, or are you going to teach some of these lessons you've learned to other people?
Absolutely teach. Absolutely. And I think that's a big reason why we're going through this organizational change is, people are excited about public cloud, and rightfully so, because it does bring a lot of capabilities in many different levels, but we're actually federating all the products, whether it's compute or it's AI and analytics. We're federating it across 2 VPs because we had it all isolated, well, maybe 3 VPs, but we had it isolated under 1 VP, so now we've just moved it across. So I think people are excited because it used to be this thing that group did, and I think it felt a little isolated. So I'm excited because now we can get a much different strategy. And now that we have Google in the mix, we went from hybrid cloud to multi-public cloud. So it's just a really exciting time for the bank, and I'm excited.
Wonderful. Okay, I have a couple more questions for them, and then I'll open it up to the audience to start thinking of things you'd like to ask them. Okay, so thinking more of the latter half of your journey, as you have already gotten into your groove, Iram, you mentioned about the self-promotion pipeline. Looking back now, as you're thinking of lessons learned, why was it so important to you to get the self-promotion pipeline up and running?
Okay, so when I started, I was as you mentioned, I was alone, right? So not that much application on the cloud. As we are migrating, our journey started, cloud journey. As we were migrating an application, I was able to handle, but there is a point came for example, 100 or 50 or 25 applications are migrating in a week or in a month, and their monitors, their dashboard, you have to teach them, then they have to create in lower environment, then you have to promote in a higher environment, right? So we are thinking how is it possible? You are keep sitting and doing. Then we came up with this idea of promotion by self-serve promotion pipeline.
Awesome. So you started with just a few teams as they were migrating, and then as you went on, you were able to get the bulk of the team.
Yes.
Okay, doing it on their own.
Did
it lead to any types of savings of, obviously it might be time because other people were doing it, but any other benefits that came from that?
Yes, so number one is cost, administration cost, right? And lots of administration cost we have saved, and also their own time they can promote, they can align their promotion process with their application deployments, right? And what else? I was thinking one more thing came in my mind and it just vanished.
No problem.
Yeah.
If it comes back,
I will add,
Okay. Laurie.
And also, I remember.
Perfect timing, yes.
So version controlling, version controlling, whatever our dev environment is identical to our production environment, right? That's the best part of this promotion pipeline. We do not make any changes in pattern prod, so our dev environment is identical to our production environment. That's the one benefit of this.
I'm sure that must be very helpful if you have any outages or need to roll back.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. I'll start with Iram, and then I'll also ask Laurie actually the same question. Because you did start from nothing and you've kind of almost greenfield and have added on to it, if you could go back, what would you do differently? And I'll ask Iram and then also ask Laurie.
What we'll do differently? I'm just thinking differently. Maybe ask Laurie first. Nothing coming.
Yeah. We'll get back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Now, what would we do differently? I mentioned that we did keep the team very isolated. And I think maybe if I were to think about if we did that differently, I would say yes, that had the like pros and cons to it. And I think the pros was that we had a focus team. We were able to, get the tasks done. We were able, we're well ahead of the consumption that was our target, which, check. But at the same time, we didn't bring everybody in the journey with us. We're very much focused on the segments. So in order to bring the capability to public cloud to be enabled, I think one of the biggest challenges was to make sure all that capability was there and making sure it was delivered on time, aligned with, even though we say we're agile, I still feel waterfall all the time. Like there's always a date that you need to hit. So from that aspect, I think from the segments perspective, they're elated, but from a cross-pollination and ensuring that, everybody is along for the ride, I think a lot of people felt a little isolated and maybe not part of, something exciting going on in the organization. And we're making it right now. But I think because Google, we're lighting it up, very specific use cases for Cowan, but what we're doing is we have a bunch of applications, very specific out of the gate from TD Securities, just because of the nature of the business. We're migrating their applications either from on-prem, and in some cases we're moving from Azure to Google, and we're trying to write that. And with the organizational change that we're doing, we'll be able to, have everybody, the whole organization, because we're ourselves are under infrastructure technology, so we're in that space. And I think that will just kind of be much smoother from a perspective, just, maybe less friction between the leaders. And as well, I think there's a great opportunity of consolidation of, tooling that we use across the organization, because there's some tools that we're using at Azure that we're not really happy with, and now we can cross-pollinate with the on-prem tooling that's used and continue to look for best of breed. So I gave you some time to think about it.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was thinking we implemented implementation point of view, we have implemented I would say good. But if I have to go back and I have to fix one thing, I will say we have different pieces of self-serve, like self-serve onboarding, self-serve promotion pipeline, and templates, but fully automate the process. Yeah, that's one thing.
That makes sense. There's always ways of improvement.
Yeah.
And automation is one of the easiest ones for sure. Okay, last question from me. What's next?
Ooh.
What excites you about the roadmap that you have ahead of you? And I can start with Laurie this time.
Okay. So probably three things that come to my mind. I would say first, as I mentioned, Google is real to us, and very specifically, we're using Datadog. I think now in enhancing the use cases that are really related to Google and the applications that we're bringing on board and migrating over the next, a year plus. So I think that's really important. I think from a Datadog functionality, I know when I was at Datadog last year, we got very, very excited about APM, and we do have some customers that are very excited to integrate that. So that's something that is, in the near future that we can really give that visibility. Because as I mentioned, our world gets complex. So hybrid's one thing, now multi-cloud and on-prem. So, I think that end-to-end visibility is going to become more and more important as we kind of slowly move, our applications to public cloud, and in some cases keep them on-prem. Because I'm being told mainframe's not going anywhere. That's the rumor out there. So we'll always have a data center, and we'll always have applications on-prem. And there's different ways that we're going to do that, is potentially talking about bringing containers on-prem, because we do have very busy trading applications that need to be close to trading centers. So that's probably the second. And probably in, I mentioned about layer 6, which was, they create their own models. Now it's much easier. We can use models that exist. So OpenAI services has been really near and dear to us in probably the last 6 months. And we have probably 3 use cases that are going to be going live this year. Very simple. We're starting slow, but I think the LLM observability, we're getting pretty excited to kind of really dig into that and help our journeys, because I have a lot of discussions about cost and tokens, and I know that a dashboard that shows us that is going to be very, very helpful to the business and to us to make sure that our learning experience isn't going to cost, we already know it's a negative ROI, but at the same time, we want to make sure we can control costs, especially in this environment today.
Makes sense. I was about to bring up LLM observability from the keynote today. What about you, Laurie? Iram, we've already talked about automation. Any other things that's on the roadmap for you ahead?
Like we are thinking synthetic monitoring to enable for our customers, and also Laurie, we really like that LLM because we have some use cases. And also today we had a meeting with revenue team where we came to know new feature of Datadog CCM, cloud cost monitoring. So this way we can do real-time cost monitoring. So I really like that feature, and we will, when we go back, we will include in our backlog and future roadmap of our Datadog.
Awesome. We recently came out with the State of Cloud Cost report, if you're curious about it.
Of course we are.
All righty, I'll open it up to the audience. We have 2 mics in the aisles. Would love to see if you have any questions for our lovely guests.
Hi, thanks for the talk. It's very good. I'm curious what your thoughts are about as you have these teams that are coming on board and you're giving them self-service capabilities. My experience has been that as you lower the bar for self-service, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because now you've got teams onboarding applications on their own that maybe aren't mature in their processes, and they don't even care so much about monitoring or SRE or making sure that their application meets the some sort of baseline standard of reliability. Have you found that your role as an observability czar, if you will, for the company, puts you in a position where you're kind of in the middle and having to police these teams and try to force them to up their game and make sure that they're doing things correctly? And how have you maybe addressed that sort of concern?
Okay, I can answer you this question. So what we have done, first of all, we have analyzed our environment and we see how our applications are deployed. So 90% of our applications are deployed as an Azure App Service. So what we have done, we have created a templates. We know our application, our environment. We created a dashboard template. We created a monitor templates. And we train our user to first clone them. And these template has all the configuration written there. What they have to do, we have an application code. They have to go in a monitor and dashboard. We have defined the template variable, and they go and change the application code, and they start monitoring their application, and they can clone from the template and they can customize it. So this way we are controlling version control. We not like whoever wants to do or their own way they configure monitor. So we have a template and a standard, and our promotion pipeline catch that error. First, it's not like that I onboarded you on a promotion pipeline, you go and promote whatever you want. First, it will validate. Is it following the right naming convention? It has all the ingredients in the templates, all the required things in the monitor, then only it will promote. Otherwise, pipeline will fail. You have to go back to your dev environment and fix the error.
Very good, thank you.
Welcome.
Good question. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, good question.
With a team of 3 FTEs, I imagine that ad hoc requests are particularly devastating to productivity because you can, if you lose someone, that's a third of your team. So how do you prevent, especially when you are sort of the, as was said, the czars of Datadog, how do you prevent people from coming to you with a bunch of questions and just eating up time?
So we have a team channels, right? We have team channels and we have an office hour. Whenever somebody ping us and, we say busy day and we have a small team, so many, we say, we have every week we have office hour. And when we see lots of queries are coming, we can have like twice or thrice, if I'm not wrong, Sean. So we have a drop-in session. So this is the way how we manage the queries from our users. And also we guide them, go watch this video, and there is the documentation. We also created our Confluence site for Datadog, TD specific, right, where our user can get benefit from that.
Do you find that having the self-service material available, like what prevents people who kind of just want you to do it for them? Like how do you say, I'm not going to do that, right? Is that a policy thing? Is that word from on high that says you can't engage this team like that? How do you insulate yourself from that?
I did not fully understand the question. Maybe you can elaborate for me. Yeah.
Oh,
I
can rephrase. Basically, like with self-service, sometimes people just don't want to do it. How do you get people to do it? Is it requirements for their app that are come down to them and they know they have to do it? Because in the past, it's been, you set the standards and then people need to meet the standards, but sometimes that work ends up coming back to you because they don't want to go do that work to do the documentation and research that.
Okay, so first thing, what we do, we motivate our user. We motivate them so much. Like, when they ask us, like how normally, if you promote in higher environment, how much time will take, we say at least 48 hours or 2 days of business. If you want to promote, you can promote in your own timelines. We won't be a bottleneck, and you have a production deployment, and you have to do a release quickly. And also I noticed, Datadog is a new tool and people feel like accomplished. Oh, I have learned something. That's my experience in TD. People are willing to learn. They want to put in their resume, oh, we have learned new tool, right?
Yes.
Right, and when we give our demos and we, like how Laurie mentioned, we have tech talks and all those kind of things where we go and motivate our user. This is the new tool. This is the way to go in a cloud to learn, right? So motivation is the key.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I think this will meet with that, follow up to that pretty well. But do you ever see times where, I think we all learn more best practices as we go. I know a lot more about Datadog now than I did 4 years ago. How do you kind of get those best practices spread to maybe the early adopters and people who built off the first version of your templates?
So you're asking me how people clone from the templates and how they utilize the template, right? So we have created a videos, like a small short videos. In that videos is showing step by step. You log on to this environment, and if you have an Azure app service and you want to monitor, you search, these are the tags, you search, these template will come in front of you, for example, 5-6 monitors, and you right click, clone, and you go here, you change your mal code, and in seconds you start monitoring your application, and they get so motivated. Oh, 1 minute I can monitor my application, right? You just change the mal code and start, because it's in Datadog environment is already integrated with Azure, and I see lots of feedback and customer, oh wow, start to monitor your application in 5 minutes, it's a great thing.
Yeah, I can see that. But
yeah.
Let's say you had a team that started from your template, and then a year later you found some more graphs that are useful to add to that template. For teams who built from the old version of the template, do you kind of reach out and say, hey, you might want to add this widget, or does that automatically get added somehow?
Okay, so as I say, self-service, self-empowerment, we empowerment our users so they don't go back. So for example, this is the first version. They created, clone from the template, right? Your dashboard is ready now, and you promoted in patent prod and already working, and later, and then if application team thinks they need to improve or they have to delete this or include something, they don't modify, or they will upgrade their own dashboard. They add new things in their own dashboard now. They don't go back to a template. If something is totally changed, and if we are changing our template or something, Datadog launched new or new matrix or anything new, and we are updating a template, we sent out the message, oh, template has been upgraded, or new template is released in our dev environment, and now future on, you should be using a new template.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We're at time. Let's give another hand of applause for our lovely speakers.
Thank you, Jonah.